I went to the doctor and he had me do some blood work, and it came back that I was pre-diabetic. And that's the first time he'd ever said that to me. I was like, pre-diabetes means you're almost diabetic. It was like the precursor to that. And I thought, that seems really serious. He said, it's not that big of a deal. You're just pre-diabetic. Let's you just need to eat less, exercise more. And I'm like, duh, yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reshape Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte, and today I have a special guest with me. Jennie is one of our Zivli members, and she is going to share her story about just her health and her weight and her experience with Zivli and the goals that she's reached. And my hope is that this brings inspiration to you, especially if you're considering joining Zivli this fall. I think bringing real life people who have done our program, who are continuing to do our program onto the show is one of the most helpful things that I can do to bring that hope and encouragement and inspiration to you. So, Jennie, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
You're welcome. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So, give us a little bit of background about, who you are, where you're from, what drew you to Zivli.
I'm from Delaware, Ohio, which is just north, about 30 minutes north of Columbus, Ohio. I was a elementary school teacher for 31 years and retired, and now we live up here. Um, just love this community. It's just a small town kind of feel, and we live in a house that's 175 years old, and it's just a fabulous, fabulous place to live. A lot of history. I was trying to think when I started my first diet, and I honestly cannot remember. I remember being in dance club in high school and being so excited that I weighed 120 pounds.
Mm.
I'm At that point, I've shrunk a little bit. At that point, I was 5'9", and I just loved being thin and tall, and I just wanted to stay at that weight and stay active, and just became really hooked on diets and losing weight and staying in shape. And I remember on my wedding day, I weighed 135 pounds, and I was so disappointed with myself because I wanted to weigh 130 pounds on my wedding day. And I look back now and I think, I haven't weighed 135 pounds in 36 years. But it's just always been in the back of my mind, to be thin, to be fit, to be perfect, I guess, is what is the word that comes to mind. I was a real perfectionist, and still am. I should say were. I still am a perfectionist. I was the youngest of six kids, and when I was thinking about this,
Mm.
being the youngest of six kids, and both my parents, my father was a Episcopal minister at a church, fairly good sized church. So he was busy, most days and through the weekends. And my mom was raising six kids and keeping a house. And then she also worked part time as a registered nurse. And so we had everything we needed, but the attention was not, we didn't get a ton of attention. We did from each other, but not from my parents so much. And I quickly learned that to get attention from my parents, I had to I would do things for them. Like I would try to do things without being asked. And as I became a teenager, I started getting attention for being fit and being active, and um, you know, having blonde hair, and just like the physical parts of getting attention. And that got me attention from my friends and from eventually boys. And so it just became this whole thing that it was all kind of focused on getting attention and almost addictive. It just continued. And I remember after I got married and we had our first child, I went to Jennie Craig to lose the baby weight. At that time, I weighed 146 pounds. And I walked in and they're like, why are you here? You're 5'9" and you weigh 146 pounds. I'm like, I just got to get back down to the weight I was when I was married, and I did, and I got way below that. But every time it came back on, I mean, I just always seemed to have it come right back on again, and sometimes more than what I had even lost. It's the classic yo-yo dieting, program after program. Weight Watchers and Mediterranean diet, and just everything. I read so many books and tried so many different things. So it's just been really, I am now 62, and I think, I've been doing this for 40 years, literally 40 years of dieting and exercising to try to be whoever this person is that I feel like in my mind is the perfect person, the perfect woman with the perfect body. And, so it's been a long, long haul.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with me and the
Yeah.
listeners. That takes courage to be vulnerable like that. And I think that there's probably a lot of people listening who can nod their head and be like, yeah, yep, I remember that too. And it's interesting just thinking about your weight story. Have you ever thought of that? Like, what is your weight story? Like, you kind of alluded to, like, when did all this start? And it was like an intention thing for you. And
Mhm.
then, after you had your first child, that's kind of when you wanted to start losing the weight again.
Mhm.
Was there any other time in your life where there was a lot of stress going on where like you just gained weight then and like you stopped being able to lose it?
My husband struggled trying to find his identity with his job, his career. We all knew what he needed to do. He needed to go into the ministry. He was just called to be a minister, and we all knew that. But he tried a lot of different things trying to get there. And I was the soul's provider. I was the one with the full time job. I was the one with the insurance. I did feel a lot of pressure to have to be there for my family, to be the one that provided for them, because I was never sure if he was going to keep this job. But finally, he kind of had one of those moments where you get, you're like, he said, I was going down this road and I got to the end of the road and there was no fork.
Mm.
And he said, I need to do what people have been telling me, I need to go into seminary. So he did. He's not an elder or a deacon, but he is, sorry. But he is just a rock to me. And our church is really important to us. And our church friends are really important to us. And it's just so nice to see him. He's now working in a nonprofit free store that helps people who are homeless and helps them find homes and helps them get the food they need and the clothes they need. And it's just such a wonderful calling for him. But I just think through that whole time I was having children, I was working full time. It was a lot to eat right, to work out, to, do all those things. It was just a lot.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that I had that job, and I'm glad I was able to do that for our family. But I think it was tough. It was a tough time.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of other people's needs came before your own, essentially, in that season of life. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to hear, when did it become your time, or was it just kind of a slow, like, was there a rock bottom moment, or was there a flash of insight, or was it like just kind of slow and gradual as your children became more independent, then you could spend more of, your time and energy back towards your health? Or what was that impetus to really start focusing on your lifestyle changes?
Yeah. I think um, about 2 years ago, I was about at my heaviest. I think I was close to 190. I had never been that big. I was just, gosh, just inactive and just eating whatever I wanted. And we were eating out a lot because with the kids, it all flown the nest. And so we had extra money and, so we were
Yeah.
just spending more money eating out and drinking more and just, just stuff that's not good for you. I went to the doctor and he had me do some blood work and it came back that I was pre-diabetic. And that's the first time he'd ever said that to me. I was like, pre-diabetes means you're almost diabetic. It was like the precursor to that. And I thought, that seems really serious. He said, it's not that big of a deal. You're just pre-diabetic. Let's you just need to eat less, exercise more. And I'm like, duh, yeah. I know that. I know I'm supposed to eat better and exercise more. I mean, it wasn't like, I want to hook you up with this nutritionalist or, and I even said, I said, should I work with a nutritionist? He's like, well, I mean, just eat more fruits and vegetables and lean meats and, and then just move your body more, walk.
Yeah.
And it was all very simple. It's like, okay. So I dropped sugar and alcohol for a very long time. I was like, okay, this is the answer. I'm just going to drop sugar and alcohol and eat more whole grains and this kind of thing. Went back the following year. He said, yeah, you're still pre-diabetic. And I said, okay. And the numbers were just a little bit higher, not a whole lot, but just they were creeping. And he said, I could probably prescribe you something if you needed me to prescribe you something. And I was like, I don't want you to prescribe me something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm type 1 where
Yeah.
I need to start taking insulin.
Yeah.
This is me. This is me not taking care of myself. And there are ways to do this. So I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he said, well, just eat better and move your body more. Oh my gosh. I'm like, oh, thanks so much. Great advice. So, anyways, I started talking to people. I have a friend from church who's diabetic. So I started talking to her. My sister had been to what's it called when you're pregnant and you're
Gestational
gestational
diabetes.
diabetes. She had gestational diabetes, and she's a nurse. And so I called her and I said, you know what should I eat? How should I? Because I know there's ways to eat. Like I know it's not just eating better. Like there's ways to combine things, and I knew that just by reading the internet and different things. And so she gave me some advice, and I tried eating smaller meals, that were high protein, and still wasn't making a big difference. And then I think I was on either Instagram or Facebook. I'm not sure which one. I saw you first, and I saw this. I'd probably they, how they figure out what you're into.
Yeah.
Probably
Mm-hmm.
saw me looking for, diabetes types of things, and I saw your ad for the boot camp, and it was free. So I thought, well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to just see what she has to say, because I assumed it was going to be what everybody else has always said, what my doctor had said, and I was struck at how smart you were,
Thank
just so knowledgeable, and you presented it so clearly. I could understand it. It makes sense to me. And I just learned so much just during those 3 days. And so I was like, I have a part-time job that I just have just for fun money, spoil my grandkids. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pay for this myself and I'm going to do this. And I actually didn't even tell my husband. I didn't tell him because there had been so many times where he was like, come on, Jen, again, you're going to try this, I mean, 40 years, we've been married for 36 of those years. He was like, really? You're going to do this again?
you.
I didn't want to hear that. I thought, I could just do this privately. I only work about 10 to 15 hours a week. And so I said, I'm going to have a Sabbath. Never had a Sabbath before. I'm going to have a Sabbath every Wednesday, and that's going to be my Zivli day. I'm going to read articles. I'm going to read through the modules. I'm going to attend the meetings. And I just set Wednesday aside as my Sabbath day. That took some training of my family to not interrupt me. But my pastor takes a Sabbath every week. And she said, that's the hardest part, is getting people in your life to not disturb you, because he can work from home on certain days. And I'm like, not Wednesday. You can't work home on Wednesday. That really was good because I felt like I just really had a day to focus. That's the day that I have my meeting with myself
Mhm.
and I check in and look at my, my progress and I rewrite my personal faith formula. I wrote that a rewrote that a gazillion times before I finally landed on one that I love. So it's just become a day since January where I've just taken it for myself. And that's when I meet with my accountability pod. And we all agree that that Wednesday is kind of the day that they're either watching a coaching session or something, or they're listening to a guest speaker or something. And that's the day we meet for the accountability pod because that's when everybody could do it. And we're all the same age. So virtually the same age. But yeah. So it just makes it really nice it's my Zivli day. And I think that's what I've heard from so many people on those coaching sessions is people saying, I don't have time, I'm working full
Right.
time and I'm trying to read all these things and, and try to understand it all. And I just have the privilege of being able to set aside a day for that. And I think that's really where my success has been.
Yes, and so I think it's important to just be very intentional. We talk about this a lot. Be intentional about your time and your boundaries, and it's almost like give to yourself first, so that you can fill your own cup up and then better give to other people. And you can do it in any season of life. It's just a little bit easier if you do have more space in your schedule and a fewer less responsibilities or obligations. So I'm really, really proud of you for taking that day. I've never heard of someone Sabbathing on Wednesday so they can do Zivli stuff. I love that. I think it's hard to slow down for a lot of people, myself included. Like for a Sabbath, it's very easy to fill that time just
Mhm.
because we're used to filling our time. Was that hard for you?
And I used to feel so guilty. I'm like,
Yeah.
because part of my Sabbath was just so funny because during the non-Sabbath days, I wake up and I have my mindset routine. So I go down, I get my coffee, and I come up and I have my mindset routine. And part of the my Sabbath is to sit and slowly drink my coffee and watch birds because I love birds. And so I sit where I can see birds either on my porch or wherever. And I'm like, I'm so guilty. I should be doing something. Gosh, that really needs to be mowed. And, I'm like thinking of all these things I should be doing. And like, no, this is your day. You need to just relax. If you want to sit here for an hour, sit here for an hour.
Mhm.
It's just, there was a lot of guilt at the beginning. And now I just like, no. And he even said to me last night, he goes, is tomorrow your Sabbath? And I said, yeah, tomorrow's my Sabbath. He goes, okay.
Does he know that you're doing Zivli stuff now? Like, did you eventually tell him?
I did finally tell him, I think I was probably maybe a couple weeks into it. And I said, I'm doing this program and I told him a little bit about it. And what was interesting is he's very smart. I was sitting at the dining room table listening to one of the modules and I wasn't using headphones. And he walked by and he goes, wow, she's really thorough. Because she's talking about some pretty deep stuff. And I'm like, I think he just thought that it was just another program, but he's like, no, this person really knows what she's talking about. This is really deep stuff. And I said, there's times when I'm listening, I'm like, I have no idea what she just said. I have to go back and listen to that again because I just have no idea what she just said. But
Mhm.
I think he was really impressed at that point, and he started seeing how committed I was to it. We eat a lot of the same things, and I said at one point, you need to let me plate my own food because he often makes dinner and it was just so much food, especially
Mhm.
like side things like grains and stuff. He would put like a cup of something like, you totally need to let me. So now it's like, hey, it's 4 ounces of chicken and that's half a cup of rice. I'm like, okay, thanks. I'm like,
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. So you've trained him both for the Sabbath and what portions you want. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm going to have him totally trained by the end of this year. But it's fun to see him. Like I'll make him like what I'm having for lunch, and he'll go, "That's really good. Yeah, that's really good food. It's really good."
It's good stuff that we tell you to eat. And I love hearing about the ripple effect. And that happens a lot where, there's one person in the family that changes and then they're just either so excited about it or somebody in their family, like their spouse or their kids are like, "Hey, you're different. Like, what are you doing?"
Mm.
And that's always the goal is for somebody to ask like, "Hey, you're acting different. You're looking different. Like, what are you doing?" I have to tell you a quick story before we move too far away from the birds. Um, you just sounded so much like my mom. My mom loves to sit and sip on her coffee, and she has her little binoculars and her bird book. And one day they have a ranch style house. And so she has so many bird feeders around, of course, to attract all these birds that she wants to see. And the
Right.
squirrels keep eating her bird food. And so, so she was like, I'm like, Mom, what's on your agenda today? And she's like, oh, I'm hanging the squirrel spikes today. And I'm like, what
Oh
is
my
that?
Lord.
There's spikes that go around her like post on her deck to keep the squirrels off. And I said, that is literally the most retired thing I have ever heard in my entire life. I'm hanging squirrel spikes today. Okay.
But I'm like squirrel spikes. Oh yeah, because my husband because I love them so much that two of my sisters have the clear ones that hang on the windows,
So
and so
funny.
I know and I love them, and so he got me one for either Christmas or my birthday with seed and all the stuff, and I was so excited. And the birds started coming. It took them like a week or so, but then they started coming with all these different types of birds. One day I came home from work and there was a squirrel inside the feeder. And I swear to you, it was like filling the entire, and he was just like,
The glutton.
he finished everything in there. And every day I'd fill it, I'd come home and he was just gorging himself. And the birds were all sitting on the fence watching him. I'm like, okay, that's not going to work.
The
So then I
squirrel
put it in
spikes.
another place, and then it jumped from like the air conditioner. It jumped like 10
It
feet
does.
to
Yeah.
the window. I'm like, are you kidding me? This
Yeah.
is not gonna work. So I have it in a place now where he can't get it. And yeah.
That's so funny. And this episode is not sponsored by Squirrel Spikes. So in case anyone cares, I told my mom, I'm like, they're just going to come on the roof and jump. I said the exact, I'm like, they're just going to jump from your roof onto that feeder.
They're very, very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. That's all good stuff. I was kind of curious. You said at times, like, I don't understand what she just said. I had to kind of rewind and go through it. And that is by intention. And so I think that sometimes like people, they just want like a quick solution or like they want something. And I'm like, it doesn't, if you I think that if you don't understand it on a cognitive level, then it's really really easy to keep justifying your behaviors, and it's very difficult to like really unlearn things, because don't you think that there's a lot of unlearning to do from the course material as to like what you kind of came in believing and then how you figured out how to change your habits?
Yeah. When you go on a diet, there's always that first week where you lose like 5 pounds,
Right.
and it's like something, it's such a switch, it's such a deprivation of calories that you're just like, oh my gosh, 5 pounds, that's awesome. And with every diet I've ever done, that always happens. And I remember getting to the end of the first week and I'm like, a pound. Okay.
Mm.
All right.
And that's once you started implementing, because I often tell new members the first 10, 12 weeks is a learning phase. You don't even, if you're going to implement anything, do some mindset work, but that's kind of once you get to the implementation phase.
It's like when you read a diet book, you start to read a little bit and you go, I just want to see what I get to eat. And you go back to where the recipes are and where the
Yes.
plan is, and you go right there. And I remember coming to one of the first group discussions and saying, I don't know if I may not have even have said it, but I was just thinking, we need to speed things up here. We need to move it along to the weight loss part. I'm not gonna be able to hang in there for all this. But then I remember, and this is the one thing I was thinking was that just this whole idea of progress, not perfection. And I really looked at the hierarchy, where it's told, we need to work on this, and we need to work on this. We need to work. Okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right.
Mhm.
perfectionist. I got to do it right. So I really focused on that. And I was surprised really how many weeks it was before we really started getting into talking about what you're going to eat. A lot of
Mhm.
it was just having that mindset routine every morning, and drinking more water. And it was all these things and I was like, yeah, I don't drink a lot of water. I need to start
Mhm.
drinking water, and and I'm sleeping okay. But, as I started going through that, I'm like, yeah, I do need to work on these things. And I do need to understand how my body processes stuff, how it works, and why it's not working right now, and why I'm pre diabetic. And once I kind of just took a breath and said, just respect the process,
Mhm.
just do this the way it's supposed to be done, and we'll see what happens, And because I heard other people also saying that too, like I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do this and I'm trying. They were trying to do too many things, and I remember somebody who was Coach Beth or Lydia said, just focus on one or two things, maybe just even one thing. Just drink water this week. Try to get that done. And so once I said, okay, let me just do it the way it's supposed to be done, then I was able to relax a little bit and just
Mhm.
appreciate the process. But there were times when I went back and re-listened to something because I was like, I just didn't quite get that the first time. And
Yeah. And I think we talked a bit offline about doing the reboot.
Mhm.
So that'll be this fall. And you know that there's emotional brain training coming into the program. And that's going to be
Yeah,
so cool. And like I was listening to a little bit of like your weight story and your body story and all those old wires and circuits. It'll be really interesting to see you erase and replace those, essentially,
yeah.
is kind of what EBT is all about. So thanks for sharing all of that. And can you share just a little bit about the results? I know you haven't been a member for super long, but what kind of both internal and then external results have you experienced so far?
My starting weight was 173, and now I'm at about 157. I just got back from vacation and had a little bit too good of a time on vacation. Though I will say, I wrote, and this was Beth's suggestion. She said, write a personal faith formula just for vacation.
Love that. Yes.
So I did, and every morning I woke up and I read my personal faith formula, what I was working on, and I reported my stuff that I was eating, and I brought with me stuff to have a really healthy breakfast and a really healthy lunch. And then I didn't have control over the dinner as much because we all took turns. Ours was very healthy, but I couldn't say that about everybody else.
Right.
I don't really drink anymore, but I did drink when I was on vacation, and I don't do desserts a lot, and I ate a lot of desserts.
Yeah.
So those parts were hard.
Mhm.
And everybody else was not concerned about that. So, but then I did. It was kind of fun. I told our host, I said, I want to do yoga every day while I'm here because we were on this beautiful lake, and he said, there's a dock
Mhm.
where we can spread out this mat, and he goes, and you can do yoga right by the water. And I was like, gosh, and some people joined me, which was kind of fun. So some of the other people that
Yeah.
we were with in our group joined me, and so I did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. But I'm also getting back on track. I just had my blood work done, and I've gone from my sugar was at 131, and it went down to 94.
That's amazing. So that's her fasting blood sugar, fasting glucose. So 131 to 94. That's amazing.
My A1C went from 6.2 to 5.9. It's better. My waist measurement went from 40 to 38. So I lost a couple inches off my waist. My BMI went from 28 to 25. And then, gosh, just I'm eating 30 to 40 grams of protein at every meal. I'm drinking 60 to 80 ounces of water a day, which I never used to do. And I'm starting to crave it. I never craved water, but I'm starting to crave it. Eating less sugar, we came from a family where we always had dessert. So I'm learning that I don't have to finish every meal with a dessert. We're eating a lot of whole foods. We eat a lot of good stuff. And we have a garden, so we're starting to get a bunch of fresh veggies and stuff. So it's really nice. And I don't eat fast food anymore. I used to eat fast food probably at least once a week. Getting 25 grams of fiber or more every day, eating basil seed pudding, and having just a lot more veggies and fruits, a lot of berries. I'm exercising regularly. This is still an area that I'm working on. I have not been able to convince myself that I'm a weightlifter. I love to do yoga and I love the way I feel when I do yoga, but I know that I need to do strength training and it's just really hard for me to motivate to do that. I don't hesitate to count things that I do, like I mow and work in the garden and
Right.
count those things as well.
And you've been working on so many other areas too, like that's higher up the hierarchy for sure. Like you're getting these cornerstone things. So I can tell like you said, I'm still a perfectionist and I can tell you're still a perfectionist. And so give yourself a lot of grace and patience that you're setting your environment up for success. You're training your mind to be consistent on these easier habits. They're
Mhm.
not easy per se, but like easier. And so by the time you're to that point where you want to really get into strength training, you're going to have built that self-discipline muscle already with like the easier habits. So it'll come. I'm confident it'll come.
My three rocks right now are strength training 3 times a week, making healthier choices when I eat out, checking the menu first, trying not to have alcohol with my meal, and having 2 desserts a week is what I've told myself.
Mhm.
Because I hike every Tuesday with some friends, some retired teachers. We hike quite a while. Like we'll go for like 7 to 8 miles. And so we always have ice cream afterwards. But I've gone from having the waffle cone to a smaller cone.
Yeah.
And they still get the waffle cone with 2 dips. And I'm like, no, 1 dip in a cone or in a dish. So I'm working on
That's
it.
great. And that's what I want people to understand is like this is not an all or nothing mindset. And having an all or nothing mindset is sometimes one of the biggest barriers for people to overcome. Like you get to make your own, guidelines or boundaries around food. And that's why I always struggle to answer that question of like meal plans. I'm like, well, you make your own meal plan. We want to teach you the proper, like what food and nutrition your body needs, but I'm not living your life. I don't know you hike 8 miles on Tuesday every Tuesday and you want ice cream. Like that's not going to be in a meal plan that I make someone just a random scoop of ice cream. So I love that you're able to take the guidelines and really make them your own. Like that's the whole goal.
And my husband and I have never been great at meal plans, and we don't follow a lot of recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 go-to breakfasts that I have that I know have 30 to 40, about 30. Yeah. One has 30 and I think the other one has like 35 or 40 grams of protein. And then I almost always, like almost every day, have a protein bowl, which starts with spinach and garbanzo beans and peas. And it's follow that little easy lunch thing that you
Yes.
at the very beginning. And then 30 ounces or 30 grams of protein. And that the protein changes. And oftentimes it's leftover chicken, or sometimes it's deli turkey, or a can of tuna, or, a couple hard boiled eggs or whatever. But I try to do that. And then in the evening, we almost always have a lean meat, some vegetables, and then some sort of small amount of grain. So it's easier for me to do that kind of thing, and then instead
Nice.
of trying to every day and then going, oh gosh, but we have to go here, and we can't make that tonight, or so.
The research shows simple is better. Having like fewer meal options that you just do on repeat that you really, really like and
Yeah.
that fuel your body, you're going to have better results. And I smiled so big when you said tuna because I made this stuff one week and it was similar, like, I don't know, beans and tuna and stuff. And my husband looked at it and he was like, Martha Stewart wouldn't eat that in prison. I'm like, well, I'm eating it out of prison and I'm not Martha Stewart and it's fueling my body. So, but that was one of his best one-liners. Martha Stewart wouldn't eat that in prison. Oh gosh.
The number one best thing I can do right now is that I can get up and off the floor so much easier. And I have three little grandchildren. One of them's 5, one of them's 3, and the other one's no, sorry, 5, 2, and 2. And they're always, I'm Gaga. So they're Gaga, come play with me. And so I used to be like, oh my gosh, I can't sit down here. And now I sit down there and I get right back up. And it was part of my personal faith formula at the very beginning. I remember saying that to Beth or something. And she said, that needs to be in your faith formula. I'm like, I'm not going to put getting off the floor in my faith formula. And she's like, if it's really important to you, it should be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is. And I love that I can get up and down off the floor and not look like I weigh a gazillion pounds. Just
Yeah.
it's easy, and that's because I'm stronger.
And that's what it's all about. It's about taking care of us so that we can better show up and impact the lives of others. I think that's really what it's all about. One of our other members is also a grandma, and she passed ninja training. I loved how she said that. I don't know if you ever heard that, but she's like, my win this week is I passed ninja training with my grandkid. So that's fun.
But when I go to the playground, I don't want to be the one sitting on the bench who's out of breath. I want to be climbing the playground with them and doing that for as long as I can.
It's a good motivator, and that's why Beth had you put it in the personal faith formula. Whatever motivates you is what should be in there. Any other like intangible results that you wanted to share?
There's been times when I've been all snug in bed and just about to fall asleep. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do my evening mindset routine. Get myself out of bed and going, because I'm like, I can't lay there thinking about it and not doing it. And it's just because it has a prayer that I say before I go to bed, and it just helps me think about, what did I do today? Did I do what I said I was going to do? Or, did I eat what I said I was going to eat? And I don't know. It just is a way for me to kind of round out the day. But having at least that morning time when you just really focus on what your day is going to look like, it does just put your head in the right space for the rest of the day.
What would you tell somebody who's on the fence about joining Zivli this fall?
Is the boot camp going to be offered again?
We're doing a different training. So they can just get the boot camp. There's a couple ways to do that. When they download our free ultimate food guide that's linked in the resources, they're taken to a thank you page and they can like buy it straight from that thank you page, but they can find it on our website too. We might have it directly linked in the episode. I think we usually do that. And it's the insulin resistance diet blueprint is what it's called. Those are the 3 training videos that Jennie went through. So you can get them on demand now, but we are hosting a weight loss training. So the 3 mistakes that sabotage weight loss after 50 is what we're hosting this time.
So I would say go to that. It'll give you a really good idea of what the program's about and give you a chance to hear you and to meet you. And for me, that was the selling point. It was just it just really fit what I was looking for, and it was just different enough. I don't know. I just it that was the thing that really punched it for me, because I couldn't stop thinking about it after that. And it was more just trying to decide if I was worth the investment. And then once I decided that I was, and that it was going to be my own money, it wasn't going to be money that came out of our budget. It was going to be money I had earned. And now I have to keep working because to make those monthly payments, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. If they're on the
Yeah.
fence, go to that first and then really get an idea.
I like that. And just to be kind of clear with the monthly payments, they do end. So if anyone's wondering, like we have lifetime access program. So she just did the payment option. So I really like that because I always want to say, like, I don't want to compete with Amazon, you guys. We're not entertainment. Like
Right.
we are not here to entertain you on a monthly subscription basis. Like we're here to transform your life. So I just wanted to put that out there in case someone heard that, like, oh, I don't want another subscription.
There's going to be times where I'm like, okay, I need to refresh myself a little bit here because I'm getting off track. So
That's why we do the reboot. So all of our members can go through the program like a new member every single time we do enrollment. for that exact reason,
Yeah.
just to reboot, to refresh. Every time they go through it, they learn something new. And you're a different person, like you going through the program again. It's almost like you can go a level deeper. The first time through, you're kind of getting your feet wet. You're learning, what is this lifestyle system all about? Like, who are these people? What is this? And then you implement some, which you're doing a beautiful job of. And then the next time through, you're like, oh, I can go deeper because I understand this stuff already. So I'm excited for that. And my last question for you in the same vein is, what advice would you give to a new member? So someone who they're going to join, they're excited, they're a little bit nervous. Maybe they get that onboarding email and they might be a little bit overwhelmed. They might be like you and you're like, I want to put the pedal to the metal here, like just kind of give me the nutrition plan already. What advice would you give to a new member?
They're probably going to do that even if I say this, but because if they're looking for a solution, so they're probably going to do that anyways. But I'd maybe help them get there faster. But just to take a breath and show yourself grace, work the program in the order that's recommended, and understand that this is a slow and steady process that is going to be with you for a lifetime. And so there's no rush. You just work on it a little bit at a time and ask lots of questions. People are reticent to ask questions, but I asked lots of questions. I went to the coach's corner a lot, and I was loved the responses I would get. They were timely and just filled with more information than I even asked for. And it always ended with, if this doesn't work for you, let's try something else. Let us know if
Mhm.
this, we can talk about this more. And so I always felt like somebody had my back. If I had questions about something, I never felt like I was out there doing this by myself, that there was always support, really good support.
We try, and I'm really proud of that. Like, I think that Beth and Lydia, there are two coaches right now. We are looking to expand our coaching team. And I'm really proud to say they answer questions in the coach's corner better than I would answer a question in the coach's corner.
So
And
good.
that is the goal. Like, that's the goal, is to hire people that do things better than you.
Mhm.
And I'm really, really proud of them. Like, they're just wonderful people. We have a wonderful team. Kendra's wonderful too. So I'm glad that you said that, because um, this is a blessing to us. Like, being able to do this work is a huge blessing to us. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to do the work that we love so much, making the impact. All of us are geriatric physical therapists, so we saw end stage disease. We saw people who weren't able to even get up from a chair, let
Right.
alone playing with grandkids on the floor. So, I'm so grateful for you and for your story. And gosh, this has been a really lovely conversation. And I'm
I
just
enjoyed it as well. It's been really nice to get to know you and to see you on a more personal level. So thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So do the reboot. We'll see more of you this fall.
All right. I will do that. All
Thanks,
right.
Jenny.
Blessings to you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.